Have you ever had to fight for something that was worth more than money? A legacy that wasn't just land or property, but a piece of your identity, the home of every memory from your childhood? Today's story is about a young man who nearly had everything taken from him. But the ones who tried to take it all had no idea that the boy they saw as weak was his grandfather's true heir, not just on paper, but in spirit and in courage. This is a story of revenge that took years to build. The day my grandfather's will was read, I could see the greed shining in my aunt's eyes. The moment the lawyer announced that our family home and the land around it belonged to her, she shot me a victorious smirk. She thought she had won. What she didn't know was that my grandfather and I had set a trap for her, a trap that would completely destroy her world years down the line. If you believe that the wheels of justice turn slowly but grind exceedingly fine, hit that like button. And if you're ready to hear one of the most calculated stories of a battle fought for a family and legacy, be sure to subscribe. Let's start from the very beginning. My name is Alex, and I grew up far from the noise of the city on a sprawling family farm. This place wasn't just a home, it was my grandpa's entire universe. Grandpa was a man of the earth. His days started with the rumble of a tractor and ended watching the sunset over the fields of corn. He'd take me with him, teach me about the smell of the soil after the rain, and he'd say, "Alex, this land isn't just dirt. It's our history and it's our future. You respect that." My childhood was spent running through those fields, climbing the old oak trees, and learning how to care for the animals. But every beautiful story has a villain. In our story, it was my Aunt Carol and her husband, Uncle Rick. They lived in the city and despised what they called Grandpa's simple life. Whenever they visited, I could see nothing but dollar signs in their eyes when they looked at the land. Aunt Carol would often say, "Dad, how long are you going to waste away in this dirt? Just sell it and come live comfortably in the city." Grandpa would just smile and reply, "My comfort is in this dirt, honey." I remember one time, when I was about 12, Aunt Carol told me, "You're going to end up just like your grandpa, a poor country bumpkin. You should study hard and get a real job. There's no future in farming." The disdain in her eyes that day, I never forgot it. As time went on, Grandpa's health began to fail. And as he got weaker, Aunt Carol and Uncle Rick started visiting more often. They were now openly talking about selling the farm, putting emotional pressure on him. One night, I got up for a glass of water and heard voices from Grandpa's room. It was Aunt Carol. "Dad, stop worrying about the farm and start worrying about us. Your stubbornness is hurting your own family. Just sell it. You'll get your money and we'll get our share." I heard my grandpa's tired voice reply, "This land is not for sale. It belongs to Alex." Aunt Carol's voice turned sharp with anger. "That kid? What's he going to do with it? You'd leave your legacy to a naive kid over your own daughter." Grandpa didn't say anything else that night, but the next day, he called me to his bedside. There was a fire in his eyes I hadn't seen in months. He took my hand and said, "Alex, my boy, make me a promise. After I'm gone, no matter what happens, don't you ever let this land fall into the wrong hands. It's your legacy, and you have to be the one to protect it." With tears in my eyes, I promised. I had no idea that promise would become the greatest test of my life. Just a few weeks after Grandpa passed, the will was read. The lawyer, an old friend of my grandfather's, began to read. My aunt, uncle, my parents, and I were all present. The lawyer announced, "As per the last will and testament, the farmhouse and the adjoining 50 acres of land are bequeathed to his daughter, Carol." A devilish smile spread across my aunt's face. She looked at me as if to say, "See, I won." I felt my world shatter. I thought Grandpa had broken his promise. But then, the lawyer continued, "However, there is a condition." The room fell silent. The lawyer explained, "The condition is that if she ever sells this land, or if the property falls into foreclosure due to unpaid debts, her nephew, Alex, has the first right of refusal to buy it back. The purchase price is fixed at $10,000. It was a strange clause. Aunt Carol laughed out loud. "Why would I ever sell it? And I'm not going into debt. It's mine now." The lawyer then read the final part. All of my grandfather's liquid assets, including his cash in the bank and his investment portfolio, are bequeathed to his grandson, Alex. The amount was substantial, so substantial that my aunt's jaw dropped. And in that moment, I understood Grandpa hadn't abandoned me. He had given me a weapon that I would have to wait years to use. After that day, I didn't stay in that house for a minute longer. Aunt Carol and Uncle Rick took possession and made it clear my parents and I were not welcome. We moved to a small rental in the city. I didn't touch a single penny of my grandfather's money. I focused on my education. I got degrees in agriculture and business management. Relatives would whisper behind my back, "Look at him, lost a family farm. He'll just be an employee his whole life." I listened to it all in silence. I waited for years, biding my time, waiting for the perfect moment. All the while, I stayed in secret contact with Mr. Henderson, a loyal, old farmhand of Grandpa's who was still working on the farm. He was my inside man, my eyes and ears. Just as Grandpa had predicted, my aunt and uncle started to run the farm into the ground. They knew nothing about agriculture. They fired the experienced workers and started spending the farm's income on luxury cars and expensive vacations. Within 3 years, the farm was a wreck. Production was near zero. To maintain their lavish lifestyle, they took out a massive loan against the property, thinking they could easily pay it back. But with no real income, they started missing payments. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I used the inheritance my grandpa left me. I formed a small, anonymous investment company. I contacted the bank that held my aunt's loan, and through my company, I bought her entire debt. Legally, my aunt now owed money to me. I didn't send her any notices. I just waited. I let her dig herself into a deeper hole until the bank, on my instruction, officially sent a foreclosure notice and scheduled the property for auction. The day of the auction arrived. I returned to that place for the first time in years. The farmhouse, once my paradise, now looked dilapidated and sad. Aunt Carol and Uncle Rick were there, looking a bit stressed but still arrogant. They assumed some big developer would buy the land, giving them more than enough money to pay off their debts and walk away rich. The auction began. Bidders started calling out numbers. The price climbed into the millions. A smile was creeping back onto my aunt's face. That's when my lawyer, the same one who was my grandpa's friend, stepped forward. He said to the auctioneer, "Hold on a minute." Everything stopped. The lawyer announced, "This property cannot be auctioned." My aunt screamed, "What do you mean? Who are you to stop this?" The lawyer turned to me and said, "Why don't you introduce yourself, Mr. Alex?" I walked forward. After all these years, I was no longer a boy. My aunt and uncle stared at me, their faces pale, as if they had just seen a ghost. In a calm, steady voice, I said, "Aunt Carol, remember Grandpa's will? There was a condition." And then my lawyer dropped the bombshell. He presented the legal documents to the auctioneer, showing everyone that my company owned the debt on the farm. And as per the will, in the event of foreclosure, I had the legal right to buy the entire property for the fixed price of $10,000. There was a deafening silence. Then my aunt started screaming, "No, this is a trick. It's impossible." The lawyer laid out the paperwork. It was all legal, all ironclad. I took out a cashier's check from my pocket, already made out for $10,000, and I tossed it at her feet. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "That's your price. Now get off my land." The look of defeat, of utter helplessness and shock in her eyes, that was my reward. The empire she had stolen through greed, I had just taken back through patience and the law. They had to leave the house and the farm. All their arrogance, all their money, turned to dust. They had to move into a tiny apartment in the city, working menial jobs to pay off the rest of their debts. The very first thing I did was call Mr. Henderson and all the old employees Grandpa had hired. We worked day and night. Over the next 2 years, we brought the farm back to its former glory. Today, the farm is bigger and more successful than ever before. That old tractor my grandpa used to give me rides on still sits proudly in the main barn. Sometimes, in the evening, I sit in the same spot he used to, watching the sunset, feeling the same smell of the earth he loved so much. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. In my case, it took years to prepare. But I learned that the best revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about rebuilding with passion what they tried to tear down. My grandpa didn't just leave me his land. He left me a purpose. And today, his legacy is safer and more alive than ever before. What did you learn from this story? Let us know in the comments. Do you think what Alex did was right? If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories of justice and resilience. We'll see you in the next one.